Hello and welcome to another episode. This is the AMG Lounge. I'm G and this is Mercedes' answer to Porsche Cayenne S SUV, and really not much else. You see, the SQ7 is the range topper at Audi, and the same goes for the Range Rover Sport SVR. And the X540i falls a little short of the 435 brake horsepower this thing produces. So, what's it like? Let's find out. When I say that it doesn't have much competition, what I mean is that the 53 sits below the 63 variant. It does so by being 1 litre less in capacity, having 2 cylinders less, and it also has some EQ trickery, which makes it almost environmentally friendly. Everything an AMG and an SUV historically is not. This not being the fire-breathing V8 version, it puts it in the firing line of the question why such a car exists. Much like the GLE53 that we saw a few weeks ago. Maybe it's got something to do with lowering the company's average CO2 emissions so that the future of the V8s can survive, so they can continue building V8s. See? Not all heroes wear capes. It could have been just to introduce to the market the EQ technology that we're going to see more and more being incorporated into AMG product. Or simply it could be to appease your moral compass, so you go for a lesser AMG. Perhaps you could argue no one needs an AMG SUV, but that doesn't mean you don't want an AMG SUV. But at the same time, you kind of want to do your bit for the environment. Ta-da! Now, that's not to say that this is particularly frugal, but actually dotting around town, slow speeds, or just cruising on the motorway, you actually do okay. I mean, at the moment, I'm averaging the mid-20s. I think 30 will probably be a stretch unless I drive it proper, mainly. But at the moment, it's just over 24 mpg, which is okay. But just knowing that, you know, you've got 435 brake horsepower under here, at every opportunity you're going to want to do the AMG dance. So you put it into Sports Plus, drop a gear, and drop the hammer. Thanks to the teamwork of the internal combustion engine and the bit of EQ trickery, you have 435 brake horsepower to pull you along. Now you sit 2-3 feet off the ground, so you've got really high driving position, and that gives you a different sensation of speed. But then you kind of remember that you're in a 2.3 ton, 7-seater, almost 5 meters in length, bit of lump, but it still gets you from 0 to 62 mile an hour in just over 5 seconds. So it's no slouch by any stretch. GLE53 has a 3 litre inline 6-cylinder turbocharged engine, and the power delivery is very linear. It's very gradual. It picks up speed, not sort of punchy and explosively like you get in your maybe the 45Ss or the C63, the E63S, and those sort of V8 variants. That's a characteristic of this car. It's a little bit softer than what you would get in your typical AMG, and that makes it quite comfortable. You know, the ride is probably the smoothest in any AMG that certainly I've driven. This particular one is finished off in brilliant blue and has a premium pack, and this car was supplied to us by Virtue Mercedes-Benz of Aylesbury, so thank you very much. If you are interested in this particular one, I'll leave the numbers and contact details down below. In terms of the things that you're likely to utilize on a day-to-day basis, I think that the premium pack makes a very, very good buy. However, if like me, you're a snob for all things nice, you might prefer the Premium Plus package. One thing that I do like about this car, I quite like the fact that it doesn't have black wheels. I think the silver wheels actually look really nice with the chrome highlights around the car. You don't have night pack where it de-chromes everything. And it's actually quite nice to have something a bit different, which brings me to my next point. Over the last 4 or 5 years maybe, Mercedes have streamlined all their options and packages. What I mean is, let's take this car for example. Now, if you like this look, you like the colour, you like the wheels, and you think, wow, option wise, that suits my needs, but I really want pan roof. You can't. Let's say you want all the options and you like the black wheels and maybe you're going for the black paint, so you like this all black on black look, fair enough, but you don't want maybe keyless entry. You can't. Let's say you like all the chrome bits, but you want the black wheels. You can't. If you are fortunate enough to be able to buy a performance car, whether it's this or any other brands, customization is key, and it's very important. You want to personalize that car. You want it to be your own. You want to put your own stamp on it. And I feel that one of the things that let it down is the lack of options. You know, you can pick the color and you can pick whether you want a premium or premium plus pack, and you're pretty much stuck with whatever those packages and color combinations entail. The difference between the premium and the premium plus pack is just under £6,000. And if you're spending 70, 80,000 pounds on a car, I don't think under £6,000 is going to be a deal breaker, especially if you're going to buy it on one of these finance packages where the monthly payment might be minuscule, relatively. And you do actually get a lot for your money. You get the upgraded sound system, you get the pan roof, you get keyless entry, and of course, the upgraded alloy wheels. Instead, personally, what I'd like to see is an AMG, you should have most things as standard. You know, you could still have some standalone options, perhaps, you know, head-up display or driving assistance pack, you know, things that you may or may not see benefit. Let's just one or two things that are just standalone options, and just put everything as standard, but instead have different, you know, carbon fiber trims. You know, if you wanted carbon fiber mirror caps or diffusers, maybe a small lip spoiler in the back. There are of course benefits to everything being streamlined. You're less likely to not tick something that you really should on the spec sheet, and it just makes it easier as well. Sometimes you open a configurator or a brochure and you're like, well, if you can have this, you can't have that, but then you can have this, you can't have that. That X, Y, Z, you can't have that, this, but if you get that out, you have to go for that. Regardless, you're still lavished in real premium materials, real quality stuff in here. You know, you've got leather trim up here, the handle, it's all really nice. The steering wheel is really soft, it's got a really nice feel to it. Up here, all along here, it's all nice and it's very solid and refined. And you know, you have all the creature comforts that you would expect: dual zone climate control, heated seats, electric seats with memory, cruise control, automatic headlights, automatic windscreen wipers, multi-beam LED headlights. The only thing that really comes in here is when you go over stupid speed bumps like that. But other than tyre noise, it's very refined and quiet. And thanks to the 48-volt battery that starts and stops the engine, it is super quiet. The screens in front of you, you can customize them to the nth degree. You can literally see whatever information you want. The one on the left side, of course, is touchscreen. You can use the touchpad down here like a mouse that you might already be used to. You've got the touch joystick on the steering wheel, and of course you've got MBUX with Hey Mercedes, so you can have a chat with her. And as well, not just digital customization, but physical as well. You know, you can put the car into fully manual mode. You can put the traction between on, sports handling, and fully off. You can raise and lower the suspension thanks to air suspension. And you've also got the make the exhaust louder button. Some of the driving modes include sand, trail, slippery, individual, which lets you set your own parameters, comfort, which is our default setting, sport, which I never use, and sports plus, which I use occasionally. I love SUVs, and they're not particularly always the most exciting car to drive, but they're just nice to drive because they're comfortable, they're smooth, they're spacious, they're practical. And SUVs are becoming increasingly popular, and at Mercedes you have the most amount of choice out of any brand, and you have a petrol and diesel variant in all of them. you have hybrid versions in most of them, and you have AMG variants in all of them. So you should really find one that suits you. And if you don't, then well, they don't do them. Now, although it has all this EQ technology on board, this is about as mild as a hybrid AMG that you're going to get, but it's a sign of what's to come. The 48-volt battery on board merely helps the car start, stop and coast on the motorway. You can't drive it on solely electric. If you didn't know that it had that, you probably wouldn't notice, and if you weren't looking for it, again, you probably wouldn't notice, and that's a testament to how well they're integrated together. It doesn't feel clunky, they work in perfect harmony, and that helps give the car a very gradual and linear and smooth acceleration all the way up the gears. Steering wise, it's really, really impressive. Now, going back to what I said about the weight and the size of the car, all those things considered, the steering is actually really, really obedient. Perhaps it's not as light and as nimble and as sporty as some of the aforementioned competitors, but actually, when you take into consideration that those cars don't have 7 seats and as big as boot and cabin space, you kind of forgive it. I mean, especially in the second row back here, you can comfortably fit 3 adults on a long journey, no problem. The third bench, however, you're better off with your smaller friends or kids. However, if you're not utilising the third bench, then you've got ample space in the boot for golf clubs, football gear, luggage, dead bodies, whatever you're into. Now, I appreciate that the sound isn't as punchy or as throaty, as gnarly, as angry as what a V8 sounds like. I get that, and I take that on board, and I'm with you. And sound has got a lot to do with the emotional side of driving a car. You know, it helps build the speed almost. You know, it's nicer, the louder, the more angrier your engine sound. It adds to the theatre of going fast, going quickly. And if that gets taken away, then you just have this sensation of just being pulled forward, and it's all, yay. It's just not the same, and I get that. But for, you know, as long as AMG have something to do with it, I'm confident that future cars will sound good. Different, but good. Or at least I hope. I hope. Unfortunately, everyone's hand is being forced by the regulations, and that takes me to my next point. Now, it's all well and good in saying that these aren't proper AMGs, and you know, there should have V8s and there should be this, that, the other. I get that. But the times are changing and we need to move with the times, right? Why? The why is very simple. The world is in a pretty bad state at the moment with everything that's going on. And we, as the occupiers of planet Earth, need to be doing something about it. It's, you know, no surprise that all the manufacturers heading down the route of electrifying their cars. The 53 has been around for 4 or 5 years now, maybe, and it was always the gateway to electrifying performance cars. And this is only the beginning. You know, the next generation C63 is going to be 4-cylinder. It's going to have more of a hybrid setup. So why would you buy a 53 over the 63? Well, the first part is obviously it's 30,000–40,000 pounds cheaper. So that's a big incentive. Secondly is you might decide that by going down the route of the 53 that you're more embracing the future of AMG. You're embracing technology. You're ready to take that leap. And not to mention, this might be your way of doing your bit for the environment. The more and more I thought about why it exists, it started making me think about us and how we live. You know, there are those of us who consume animals, but avidly recycle plastic. To those people, thank you. There are those of us who have petrol guzzling V8s, V10s and V12s at home, but their house is purely powered by solar panels. To those people, thank you. There are those of you who may contribute to fast fashion, but proactively help keep plastic out of our oceans. To those people, thank you. And this is what the AMG 53 is reminding me of. It's taken its first step into electrifying itself, and therefore It's taken its first step to do its bit for the environment. And that's pretty much been the takeaway for me. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, especially if you've made it to the end. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace. In case you thought I'd forgotten Richard, and to those who have actually made it to the end of the video, that was Richard on the same day the car got registered. So